Lifelong way of love is something that resonates so strongly with me. You've heard about that and have seen, no doubt, information from our Episcopal Church headquarters in New York. Presiding Bishop Curry talks about the way of love and its facets: turn, learn, pray, worship, bless, go, rest. In every aspect of our common life, these facets come into play. While all facets are vital in living a Christian life, what undergirds it all, I believe, is the second: learn. This past year, we've concentrated on learning. In light of this learning, I want to focus my address on 3 areas today: the vitality and diversity of our communities, stewardship, and financial transparency. Under the leadership of the Reverend Canon Greg Larkin, the Reverend Nick Griffith, and Ken Chow, our Iona program, offering high-quality theological education for those who are seeking holy orders, and a 3-year certificate program, continues with our original cohort. It is a work in progress in terms of translating the materials into other languages and making them culturally and linguistically appropriate. I hope to finally get the grant for this work done by the beginning of 2020. In the new community, formerly known as Multicultural Ministry, we've gathered as heads of the various groups and continued our common work of not only learning together, but helping our community learn and grow. I want to offer you some highlights of the great work going on in this area and shine a particular spotlight on our newest program. The Lee Timoy Institute continues under the direction of the Reverend Thomas Nee, bringing all aspects of study and lay leadership training to members of our congregations in Mandarin. The Instituto de Liderazgo, lay leadership training in Spanish, has been undergoing an overhaul in the way at which it delivers the content of this excellent lay leadership training, as well as to some of the content itself. This is under the direction of the Reverend Canon Roberto Martinez and the Reverend Carlos Rubalcaba. We'll be relaunching it this coming year. Hear, hear. The program group on Black ministry hosted our annual Martin Luther King Jr. event this past January with keynote speaker Professor Devin Carbato. If you missed that, not only did you miss a dynamic speaker, but a beautiful, beautiful service. We will have Professor Carbato back with us for our MLK service on Saturday, January 18th at 4:00 p.m. at Holy Faith in Inglewood. Mark your calendars. Truly, you do not want to miss this. Other great offerings this year came through the Office of Black Ministry for the Episcopal Church and its missioner, the Reverend Canon Ron Bird. Due to our reputation and my work with New Community, Canon Bird offered 2 events for our diocese: Basics of Collaborative Leadership and Internalized Oppression. At the celebration of Absalom Jones, Canon Bird spoke to the group gathered about the work of the Black Ministry Office and his offerings to us here in this diocese at no cost to us. We look forward to further opportunities for leadership training and collaboration with Canon Bird. Suzanne Edwards-Acton chairs this program group. A great blessing for us all were the various convocation offerings this year. The Union of Black Episcopalians is a dynamic and significant part of the history of the Episcopal Church. It's an organization that every member of the church should be familiar with, not just those of African descent. The H. Belfield Hannibal chapter is our local chapter. Our chapter was very involved in the National Union of Black Episcopalians gathering here in Los Angeles this past summer. Our own Suzanne Edwards-Acton, the Reverend Guy Lemus, the Reverend Canon Jamsetta Hammonds, Casey Jones, Stacy Forte Dupree, Rose West, and Jeanette Allen, and too many others to name, provided a very warm LA welcome, as did the weather that week, to those that were gathered. The opening Eucharist on Sunday was held at St. Philip's in Los Angeles, And services also occurred at our cathedral and at All Saints Pasadena, with presiding Bishop Michael Curry preaching a dynamic sermon. The Reverend Canon Jamsetta Hammonds as our local chapter's president. Did you know we have an umbrella group that covers Asian ministry in this diocese? The Episcopal Asia America Program Group, chaired by the Reverend Brent Keenis, EAM as it's known, works with all the Asian groups in the diocese, organizing events such as the New Year's service and dinner and other events throughout the year. It is the overarching gathering group for all of Asian ministry in the Episcopal Church. So let's talk about, though, the convocations that exist underneath this umbrella. The Chinese convocation met in New York this year with great representation from the Diocese of Los Angeles. Discussions on changing demographics and immigration dominated our time together. Here, we heard through the story of evangelism at St. George's Church in Flushing, New York, that the Episcopal Church is uniquely positioned to attract immigrants from Taiwan and mainland China. We brought this learning back with us to this diocese. Here in Los Angeles, this program group gathers throughout the year at events such as the celebration of Lee Timoy, the first woman priest in the Anglican Communion, Chinese New Year, and other gatherings for clergy and laity, including Cantonese Bible study. The Reverend Fenny Cheng chairs this group for us here in LA. The Filipino convocation was held in Los Angeles this year with attendees from around the United States. Discussion on mission and ministry and growing the church dominated our time together. Great turnout, of course, from our Los Angeles members. The Reverend Brent Keenis chairs this work. The Korean convocation, meeting in Chicago, also focused on growing the church, specifically via evangelism. An added bonus for the group was the attendance of staff of the church pension group, who offered a mini workshop on planning for wellness in Korean for the clergy who attended. Our LA cohort was the largest group and included support from non-Korean attendees, as well as Korean clergy and laity. Again, participation by our Korean members here in Los Angeles added to the discussion in community building. The Reverend Canon Aiden Ko and the Reverend Yane Kim co-chair this group. Unfortunately, I had to miss the Japanese convocation in Seattle due to a death in my own family. However, all reports were glowing about, again, community building, support, and evangelism. Training lay leaders is a point of emphasis in this convocation. Of particular note here in the diocese, Christ Church Redondo Beach and St. Andrew's Torrance has launched Japanese ministry and is working on educating new members in our Anglican Episcopal polity and theology. Dr. Gail Kawahara chairs this group. In terms of Latino ministry, the convocation for this large group happens every 2 years. I'm looking forward to Nuevo Amanecer, scheduled for 2020 in North Carolina, and our own Anthony Guillen leads this group beautifully. This is the largest gathering with over 400 normally in attendance. The Diocese of Los Angeles has always had a great turnout at these events, and the variety of workshops offered to the attendees runs the gamut of opportunities for lifelong Christian formation. This program group, however, did not stop working in this diocese. In May, the group hosted a Cinco de Mayo event at the Episcopal residence. In June, a 2-day exploration of how to deal with stress while feeding hungry hearts was offered in Spanish, facilitated by psychologist Damaris de Jesus, who specializes in leadership and organizational development. The Reverend Carlos Rubalcaba chairs this group. The Reverend Dr. Mary Christ, who heads our Indigenous Ministries group, has been busy. She's hosted All Nations Celebration of Indigenous Culture, also hosted a 2-day All Nations Healing Retreat for Indigenous women. She sponsored attendance for 10 women in an Indigenous retreat in the Diocese of Diocese of Arizona. And we are very pleased that Mary has been appointed to the part-time position of Indigenous Theological Education Coordinator for the Episcopal Church. She is now half-time on the presiding bishop's staff. Mary, we can exchange stories. What a great honor for her and recognition of her great work here in this Diocese of Los Angeles and across our church. The Diocese of Los Angeles is active in all of these ministries. The difference we bring to the table is our presence at convocations and gatherings. I will share with you that often your bishops here in the Diocese of Los Angeles are the only bishops who attend these convocations and gatherings. It sends a strong message to the cohorts that the Diocese of Los Angeles cares. Our presence is evidence that these ministries are integral to our life here in this diocese. We are there to support this crucial work in our church. Ever since I became bishop in charge of New Community 9.5 years ago, it has been a priority for me to show up, to be with the new community. Why don't more bishops from other dioceses attend? Good question. We are blessed here to have a diocesan staff and especially a diocesan bishop who supports this work throughout the Episcopal Church and all our relationships throughout the Anglican Communion. You could clap for that one.
Thank you, Diane. Well done. God bless you, Diane.
One of the new ministries we launched with great success is The Gathering. Started in January 2018, The Gathering, a space for Asian American spirituality, is a ministry of the Episcopal Diocese of Los Angeles that seeks to provide opportunities for Asian Americans to gather, pray, learn together, engage in initiatives for peace and social justice, talk about spirituality in an Asian American context, as well as to foster community among Asian Americans here in this diocese. At the same time, non-Asian Americans are welcome to come and learn about Asian American spirituality through The Gathering. This initiative focuses on attracting Asian Americans to the Episcopal Church. The Asian churches in the Diocese of Los Angeles are primarily geared to address the needs of Asian immigrants. The 1.5, 2, 3, and 4 generations out, Asian Americans, not just young, all ages, many of them young adults though, are not always attracted to the existing Asian churches we have. They're looking to talk with other Asian Americans who face the same realities, especially challenges that they have. Many young Asian Americans are looking to belong to communities that are both spiritual and active in engaging in social causes such as race, culture, immigration, and inequality issues that the Episcopal Church champions. There's also an increasing number of mixed race, interracial Asian Americans that The Gathering reaches out to. Some of the offerings this group has shared with this diocese include Asian American identities and images of God, the sacred and the profane, spirituality of the Japanese American World War II incarceration, gathering the music and story of our heart, becoming beloved community, finding our connections across cultures, Day of Remembrance, co-sponsored by The Gathering in the Diocese of Los Angeles at the Japanese American National Museum, a pilgrimage to Manzanar, the Japanese internment camp, and Beyond Inclusion, a conversation on being Asian American, LGBTQX, and Christian. Under the leadership of the Reverend Peter Wong and the Reverend Yane Kim, in January of this past year, we hosted a joint planning/development meeting with East, Episcopal Asian Supper Table, a ministry of the Diocese of New York, to talk about and grow this ministry. This collaboration not only built friendships on both coasts, but began a cooperative, collaborative exploration of deepening this ministry throughout the Episcopal Church. Peter and Yane authored a grant request to the Episcopal Church to assist us in funding this ministry, which was granted at the $20,000 level.
Hear, hear.
That's really good. With a small $2,000 match from our Mission Share Fund budget to continue to solidify and grow this work in the next year. With this money, we'll underwrite another planning retreat in January, among other things that we'll do. The January retreat will expand to involve people from other dioceses, including Texas, Long Island, Chicago, and Alabama, to help them start similar ministries. In order to help congregations understand the culture of the neighbors around them, Peter Wong came up with the idea of Asian immersion experiences to dialogue, learn, and take steps to get to know the Asians in our midst. We started out last year with an immersion experience. Think about it as a version 1.0 in Chinese. And we added more this year, Korean and Filipino. Beginning next year, we'll start back with 2.0 versions of Chinese, Korean, and Filipino, as well as other immersion experiences. If you haven't been to one and want to understand a few of the many cultures represented in our diocese and in our church, watch for the upcoming announcements in the Episcopal News. You'll be warmly received, and you'll learn a lot, and the food is always great. The gathering planning team consists of the Reverend Peter Wong, the Reverend Yane Kim, the Reverend Nick Griffith, the Reverend Brent Keenis, Sharon Matsushige Crandall, Mel Soriano, Jenny Goto, Joshua Wong, Dustin Nguyen, Erica Bertling, and the Reverend Dr. James Lee. This team can be a resource to work with each congregation here to help make connections in the Asian community. Don't hesitate to reach out to them, please. My friends in Christ, in my work with the new community, I constantly find that we have a long way to go to truly become the beloved community that Presiding Bishop Curry speaks so eloquently about, echoing the words of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. I am grateful that the Reverend Canon Susan Russell has come on board to help us with engagement across difference. Any member of the new community team can express to you for themselves the prejudice and/or microaggression they have experienced in their lives, and in this, the Episcopal Church. My hope and prayer is that we continue the good work already begun and engage in an even deeper work of facing and eradicating prejudice and discrimination of any kind, but most especially racial discrimination in our communities around us. May we, as the Episcopal Church in the Diocese of Los Angeles, take a hard look at ourselves and the communities around us, both within and outside our churches. Every church needs to start mirroring the demographic of the community around them. We need to stop practicing tokenism rather than full inclusion. We need to do this at all levels of leadership, and let me repeat that. We need to stop practicing tokenism rather than full inclusion. We need to do this at all levels of leadership in our churches, institutions, and communities. May we be the voice of Jesus in every community in our diocese, raising our voices to eradicate racial, sexual, gender, any kind of discrimination and prejudice. May God's healing hand be over us in all of this work so that we can move our communities forward in saying and meaning the words of former Presiding Bishop Edmund Browning, "This church of ours is open to all. There will be no outcasts." And where any member of any one of our churches is an outcast in the secular community in which they live, may we bring God's healing love to them and stand with them in their struggle. May we shine the healing light of the Spirit on the pain in our communities and convert this pain to action and transformation. Then, only then, can we truly be the beloved community Jesus is calling us to be. Now that I'm fired up, let me talk about money. Stewardship. Ah, I love it. Presiding Bishop Michael Curry's The Way of Love is a way of life. As Presiding Bishop notes, it is more than a program or curriculum. It's an intentional commitment to a set of practices. It is a commitment to follow Jesus, turn, learn, pray, worship, bless, go, rest. At our annual stewardship event on Saturday, June 1st, the diocese had a chance to dig into bless, to share faith and unselfishly give and serve. At the Stewardship Conference, we explored different ways to bless through how we use the gifts God has given us to be a blessing to others, how to care for these gifts in holistic, loving ways, and how to share these gifts. Bishop Taylor was our awesome keynote speaker, helping us step out of this way into this way of love. The workshop offerings that day were tens. We heard from Richard Felton, narrative budgeting, faithful budgeting, how to be a blessing. How do you choose a stewardship campaign every year? Capital campaign and stewardship. Treasurer and bookkeeper how-tos, and the Kaleidoscope Institute. Videos of the workshop and plenary addresses are stored off for anyone to view and use on the diocesan website. Please remember again that the materials of TENS is available to every congregation in this diocese for free. Also, we will have offerings at the ministry fair on March 7th, 2020 at Campbell Hall. Keep your eyes peeled on upcoming Episcopal News Blast for details on that work. Also, mark your calendars now for the first Saturday in June 2020, when we'll have our third annual Diocesan Stewardship event. I'm grateful to the program group on stewardship, the Reverend Dr. Rachel Nybeck, the Reverend Susan Scranton, the Reverend Michelle Rackison, the Reverend Ada Wong Nagata, the Reverend Margaret McCauley, and the Reverend Eric Law, and the Reverend Canon Brad Cornelius for their work. As a result of this event, I was able to help a few congregations personally by working with them to design their stewardship campaigns. Want some help planning for next year? Are you trying to bridge a budget gap? Are you practice the tithe Sunday? Need an enthusiastic speaker for your stewardship dinner? Give me a call. Let's talk. Let's make it happen. So, related to stewardship, I was asked by the Episcopal Church Foundation to pen 2 articles for them this year. In January 2019, Vestria's team, there is no I in team, I wrote, and just last week my article on budgeting came out, Zero-Based Budgeting / Narrative Budgeting, a focus on mission. So speaking about budgeting, it's another favorite area of mine to work on. As I said to you 2 years ago at the 2017 convention, we all deserve transparency in dealing with our finances. I also said that it was going to take us a few years to turn this boat around. With the direction of Bishop Taylor, the dedication of our Treasurer, Canon Andy Tomat, and our Chief Financial Officer, the Reverend Michelle Rackison, we continue to make great strides in turning this boat around and setting our course in the right direction. Last year, we showed you for the first time a roll-up of the 10 big buckets, and for the first time, the multiple funding sources that feed those buckets. It was a lot to absorb. We also came to you with a deficit budget. Due to the diligence of Reverend Rackison and Canon Tomat, and the patience and diligence of a lot of people, we were able to present to Diocesan Council a balanced budget for 2019, which is what is shown to you in the 2020 budget presentation. You will notice that the 2020 budget has still those 10 big expense buckets we used last year, and a further breakdown of what goes into those 10 buckets. I shared with you all last year that we worked through looking at comparable positions in the marketplace in Los Angeles to get our diocesan staff at or near where they needed to be compensation-wise. We were able to do that. The average diocesan salary is now on the bottom of the budget sheet as a footnote. And because I've been asked this question, I'm also happy to share with you that the compensation of the diocesan staff is on par with their secular counterparts. In particular, the salary of your bishops is in the median compensation range of bishops with suffragans in dioceses of our size, as reported by the Church Pension Fund. This year, as I promised last year, we worked with the program group on mission congregations to get the mission vicars up to where they need to be. We were able to make some movement here, but we are not done yet. It's a bigger number than our adjustments last year to our diocesan salaries. It has been many years for some vicars to have a raise of any kind. The same was true last year of our diocesan employees. The budget in front of you is moving to get our vicars, the ones who work sacrificially for us in areas of great challenge and where the love of God in Christ is so desperately needed, to where they deserve to be financially for themselves and their families. Let's bring these salaries up to a compensation level that is a just compensation level for our vicars. If you are a parish, your help is needed to make sure your congregation is moving to the 12% giving level if you are not already there. If you're already at the 12%, can you up your giving to 13? 14? Do I hear 15? This is a priority for all of us in 2020. Speaking of salaries, Christine Bodzowski, president of the Episcopal Church Women in the Diocese of Los Angeles, brought an idea to Bishop Taylor and me to look at parity issues among women clergy. I got to thinking about that, as it came at the same time I was looking at the compensation for our mission vicars. I started researching our own diocesan resolutions regarding compensation. Some may remember that way back in 2006, we passed a series of resolutions regarding compensation. One resolution in particular was the establishment of a compensation committee. Resolved at the 111th annual meeting of the Church in the Diocese of Los Angeles, request that the bishop establish a commission to implement a compensation support plan to assist congregations with clergy compensation as standards of clergy compensation increase. Sound simple? Did we ever do it? No. So here's what we want to do. Bishop Taylor already spoke to you a little bit about this issue, and I want to reiterate that the compensation committee will look not only at clergy salaries, but lay salaries and parity in benefits as directed by our General Convention. We will also do a study across gender, race, sexual orientation, age, years of service, etc., to be brought to the 2020 convention for consideration to make changes or adjustments in salary levels and benefits for both our lay and ordained brothers and sisters working in this diocese. So after 9.5 years as your bishop suffragan, I want you to know that every visitation teaches me something new about you all, our diocese, the Episcopal Church, and yes, Jesus. Every Sunday, I have the great joy to turn, learn, pray, worship, bless, go, and then rest. I have learned more from being with and listening to you, from Needles to Santa Monica, from San Clemente to Santa Maria, in every language spoken in this diocese. You teach me how to be a better Christian and a better bishop by the way you care for each other and for me and for our entire diocesan staff. It is in the way you share of yourselves. It is in the questions that you ask, and you've asked some tough ones. It's in your gentleness with putting up with my New Jersey accent, especially when I get excited in a conversation. It's in your caring about your neighbors, laundry love, feeding programs, schools, health clinics, after-school tutoring. There's so much going on here in the Diocese of Los Angeles. And I've always known this diocese to be full of people who love Jesus and want to walk in the way of love. You prove it to me over and over again every Sunday, and I am so grateful. And as I always start out my sermon, I bring you greetings from Bishop Taylor, Canon McCarthy, and the entire diocesan staff. We're here to help you in any way we can. I mean it, and we mean it. Last but not least, On a personal level, I have news for you. In June, I was declared 10 years all clear from bilateral breast cancer. Some of you will remember that 10 years ago at this convention, I was elected bald. I was awfully cute, though. And I get to now finally go off this drug at the end of December that I've been on to keep me cancer-free. So that's good. Also, our daughter Jardine was married to the love of her life, Bobby, in April. And now many of you have heard me say for years, I really want to be a grandma. Well, guess what? This year it finally happened. There he is.
Neil.
Neil Shankar Bruce. Neil Shankar Bruce, born on January 17th. I'm not allowed to show pictures on social media for my daughter or my son or the baby, but I got free permission from my daughter-in-law to show you all here today. So thank you, Diocese of Los Angeles. Thank you, and let's keep on learning together.
You're here.